right, ladies and gentlemen, it's the final day of the U.S. presidential elections, and the voters will cast their respective ballots. The final day of voting. Opinion polls continue to show a neck-and-neck fight between the U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris and presidential candidate for the Republicans, the former President of the United States, Donald Trump, both nationally and in most of the swing states. Now, we'll just get you a lowdown of the swing states. First of all, what does swing state mean, viewers? The swing states are the ones where it's a very, very close contest. And these are 7 states. 7 states of the United States are the swing states, which in fact become a deciding factor. And we've seen how they have in the past played a very important role. If we go back to 2016, we first of all talk about Arizona, the first swing state. We talk about 90% of voters have opted for the mail-in or early ballots. Remember, there have been early voting this time. It's been a good turnout if you talk about the early voters this time through mail, that is. And what we understand is that the results could be skewed in the swing state of Arizona. Initial counts are likely to lean towards Kamala Harris. So what we are getting to know as per the latest trends, Georgia now could see a blue mirage. That is, once again, we see the Democrats dominating here. Harris leading in the early trends that have come in from Georgia. It's a very, very important state. Remember, Georgia, if you see. And we talk about the new voting policies. They somewhere could expedite the result. We change. We look. We now shift our focus to Michigan. Of course, the mail ballots are still favoring the Democrats in the state of Michigan, another very, very important state that has in the past played an important role. The early counts once again are giving in Kamala Harris the edge. So we talked about Arizona, we talked about Georgia and Michigan. And lastly, the clarity could be delayed for a week or more. Remember, when it comes to Michigan, we'll start to see, remember, the early trends by tomorrow. That is midnight today, but tomorrow it will be much more clear. But the actual results could be a bit delayed here. Key battleground state is Pennsylvania. It's seen as the deciding factor. Pennsylvania, very important for Trump, remember. In fact, that rally where he was shot was that assassination attempt, that iconic image that emerged was from Pennsylvania. A very important swing state once again. And the mail ballots will be prolonging the vote counts. That's, of course, that goes for every state, viewers, when we talk about the mails here, the early voting. And if we talk about Wisconsin, well, this is also an important one. Late night ballot processing could delay the results over here as well. We move on to the other swing state. We've talked about Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And we will continue to get you an insight of those states. But now, the next aspect, and a very important one for you and me, viewers, will be, of course, who's the better bet for India? That, of course, is important when it comes to this race to the White House. Now, if we talk about Kamala Harris, of course, this was not a full term. Kamala Harris has taken over, from Joe Biden. Joe Biden's term has been decent enough for India. But we talk about the negative, the minus points. She's been controversial when it comes to statements on 370 abrogation. She has openly opposed the abrogation of Article 370 back in the year 2019. So India's policy, of course, the way she's commented on the quote-unquote human rights as well, somewhere does not go in India's favor. We talk about the positive. Yes, she has been in favor of expanding skilled worker visa like H-1B. H-1B somewhere is, something that Trump has been very controversial with, and that does not really fall in favor of New Delhi. Now we go on to the other negative, that is Harris remaining mum on issues of India. If you see, she has not been very open. We've seen Donald Trump in the latest, he's commented on what's happening in Bangladesh, the human rights, the way minorities are being targeted. But we do not see any sort of mention when it comes to Kamala Harris of that sort. Positive, of course, plans to push for renewable sources like India. She's very focused on that economy part and the renewable energy part as well, where India has become a big player, is emerging as a big player. Negatives, talking about the unfavorable comments on India by the Biden administration. We've seen time and again, we've seen the approach on Khalistan, the approach on many other issues where the Washington, D.C. has not been very favorable to India. Positive, of course, planning to push for renewable sources. Negative is the vice presidential candidate, Tim Walz's close ties to China, of course. And if you talk about Trump, he has been very openly, he has been opposing China. And if we move to other negative is that the arm twisting on freedom of religion. We have seen time and again these reports that have been published under the Biden administration where there have been issues highlighted, so-called issues that have been highlighted in those reports of what's been happening in India about minorities. And we understand that Kamala Harris might be, continuing with that pattern. Another negative, Democrats interfering in the local politics. Once again, as we were telling you about the reports that have come in, the statements that have come in, that could not always be a welcome, something that is welcomed by New Delhi. And we talk about the other negative is the delay in arms sales and pressure on Russia. Of course, we've seen the rearrangement of politics. We were the rearrangement of ties post the Ukraine-Russia war. And somewhere it has made, Washington, D.C. very uncomfortable the way India has maintained its ties with Russia, in fact, strengthened its ties with Moscow. We talk about another negative, that is the deep state role in destabilizing Bangladesh. We all know that Muhammad Yunus, the chief of the interim government, is close to the Biden administration. We shift our focus to to Donald Trump now. Now, he has criticized India on issues of tariffs, and we've seen many times we had the Harley-Davidson issue, and many other times we have seen
this will be the golden age of America. Tomorrow, it's a beautiful term, isn't it? I was saying before, I was just proofing and reading and studying and all that stuff, and what a beautiful term, the golden age. We're going to be in the golden age. Won't take long. So tomorrow you have to stand up and tell Kamala that you've had enough. You're not going to take it anymore. You're the most incompetent vice president we've ever had. And Joe Biden was the worst president in the history of our country. Kamala, you're fired. Get the hell out of here. You're fired. This is a hell of a nice place. Thank you. With your vote, we're going to win Pennsylvania, and we're going to defeat Kamala and those radical left, what they're doing to our country. Crazy Nancy Pelosi, what's about her? She has Visa stock, a big position. She started off with nothing, now she's worth $200 billion. How did that happen? So she has Visa stock, and she sells her stock. The day before, it was announced that Visa's under major federal investigation. I don't know. I wonder, do you think she had any insider information? I don't know. It's disgrace. Honestly, she's a disgrace. They ought to throw her the hell out of Congress. We are going to make America great again, and it's going to be fast. We're going to do it fast. We'll fast track it. Over the past 4 years, Kamala has orchestrated the most egregious betrayal that any leader in American history has ever inflicted upon our people. She's violated her oath of office. She's eradicated our sovereign border and unleashed an army of gangs and criminal migrants from prisons and jails, insane asylums and mental institutions, from all around the world, from Venezuela and the Congo in Africa, stealing countless American lives. And these are rough customers that are coming, much rougher than almost anybody in this room.
Donald Trump. Now we talk about how much of Trump's presidency will be in favor. We've seen this before, and there have been, a lot of areas where it has not really gone down well with New Delhi. If we talk about trade, that's one of the number one point is trade, the tariffs, and the trade war looms large if Donald Trump returns to power in US. Now he has criticized India on issue of tariffs, and he remember he pushes for buy American, higher American as well. The issue of H-1B visas, and also, of course, the tariffs on imports from China. And of course, we saw how in 2018, Trump administration had imposed tariffs of 10 to 25% on Indian aluminium and steel. So that retaliatory tariffs were also coming in. Now, the positive, of course, promises to hold the Russia-Ukraine war. So here, Donald Trump has not been, unlike Biden administration, he has not spoken about one side that one has to only support Ukraine and oppose Russia. He has spoken about mediation. He has spoken about finishing the war once and for all. We move on to the other negative if Donald Trump returns to power. We've talked about the H-1B visa. Remember, H-1B visa is something that, of course, bothers many people who go to United States looking for educational opportunities and also looking for employment opportunities. The other negative, of course, raised import duty on Indian steel in the last, and that's what I just mentioned about raising the tariffs on aluminium and steel in 2018. That was, of course, a point of contention between Washington, D.C. and New Delhi. Positive, of course, he would interfere less in India's internal affairs. He's always spoken well about Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Remember, he has spoken of Prime Minister Modi as a great friend, and he's even when it came to Kashmir issue, when it came to Article 370, he was very much in support of it. If we really read into his statement that came in. Now, the negatives, of course, America First policy could be problematic. As I mentioned, hire American, buy American, America First, make America great again. That something is a cause of concern, especially if you see focusing on the trade ties. So America First policy could be problematic here. Positive is, of course, to promote policies to reduce the reliance on China. That, of course, is something that India will be looking forward to. Now, the other positive is that US companies have explored India as an alternative. That, of course, remains important. Many other companies like Apple Inc. and several others have looked at the Indian market very, very positively. He has, of course, called Prime Minister Modi his good friend in the recent past. That, of course, we've seen time and again. The bonhomie between Donald Trump and Prime Minister Modi has been something we've not seen earlier between the heads of both the states in the past. He has raised atrocities in the latest. He's raised the atrocities against Hindu minorities in Bangladesh. He's always been vocal about that in the latest. Of course, he understands the Indian American vote bank also. And he has been it's been something that we have never seen before. No other world leader has been giving out such a stern message about Hindus being targeted across the globe. So that, of course, is Donald Trump for you, what we can expect, what New Delhi can expect if he returns to power. Now, let's take a look at what the Democratic candidate had to say, Kamala Harris here. Let's take a listen in.
Be intentional about building community. Let us be intentional about building coalitions. Because, there's been so much about these last few years that has been about trying to beat people down, trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other, trying to make people feel as though they're alone and don't have anybody. So not anymore, because we all know that our power includes, yes, this vote and this election, but building community and coalitions and reminding folks the vast majority of us have so much more in common than what separates us, and we are all in this together. We are all in this together. And from the very start of our campaign, this has not been about a fight that is against something. This is about a fight that is for something. with freedom and opportunity and dignity for all Americans. And so in this final stretch, let us remember that we have a lot of work to do, and there is power in our work about reminding folks of their voice and the power of their vote. So remember, your vote is your voice, and your voice is your power. So, Pennsylvania, Allentown, I then ask you, are you ready to make your voices heard?